I've just realised that for the whole time I was on mute. So I'm going to start again. Hello and welcome this afternoon to Leaders of Digital Learning 2021 with Tablet Academy. My name is Heather Rhodes and I'm a music and music technology teacher at Calderglen High School in South Lanarkshire Council. Today's session will be on Google Classroom tips and tricks, and I hope to share some tips and tricks with you that you might be able to take away and to implement into your own practice, maybe even bridging that gap between learner and teacher on these digital communication platforms that we're trying to still get our head around in regard to some of those things. Apologies in advance for starting with my microphone muted even, and you're probably thinking, what on earth was she doing? Probably right. So I've popped two things in the chat box for you, and I've popped the link down the bottom. So please use the live chat to share your thoughts and comments. We're on Twitter with the hashtag LDL2021. And then if you've got any questions or feedback or anything regarding the sessions today, my name is, or on Twitter is at Miss Rhodes Music. But you can also let us know about anything else, like for Pam and Ian and Grant and anyone else who's hosting anything this afternoon or this morning that you've joined. So without any further ado, what I'm going to do is just pop over, share my screen, talk over the features and functions of Google Classroom. Please share your own tips and tricks if you've got them, put them into the chat function. I'd be greatly appreciated, but I'll just start with my list, work through the features that are available in Google Classroom and take it from there. So as many of us know, I mean, my classroom, if you look at my class cards page, there is an awful lot of things for me to manage. Quite nice idea, or if you know this, you can reshuffle your class cards into a specific order, for example, or into groups. So for example, you might have the ones at the top as the ones that you utilise most, or the ones that you'd like to, for example, have in order. So for example, I might have first year first, and then second year, and then third year. And all I'm doing is clicking on the card and dragging it to wherever I'm wanting it to go. So my classes are a bit messy at the moment, but if I put all the third year ones together that I've got, and then if, for example, I could have fourth year, and then higher would come next. So higher music tech, and you can split them up that way. So that's quite easy and a nice way to organise your Google Classrooms on that page. You'll also notice that you can have a variety of different display features, which are all in Google Classroom. For some of my classes, you can see, for example, like on here, I've personalised the backgrounds at the top. Now you can do that in a variety of ways. You might want to check out Pam's session that she did on Canva earlier, which is another platform that you can use for creating graphics and a variety of other things. The ones that I created my one on was Adobe Spark. But again, you can create any background in any sort of software that has that ability to create images. It could be in Google Docs, for example, or Google Slides, and you can create that and then upload your photo to the background of your Google Classroom. Nice thing about Canva and Adobe Spark is you can set the dimensions for what the background would be. So, for example, I think that one was very similar to a Twitter. The Twitter backgrounds that you can create, so the similar dimensions that are there, but it just adds a nice personalised touch. I mean, I don't think teachers really tend to fuss about the photo on the background, but I think it makes it look a bit more personalised rather than having just the bog standard select themes, which I'm assuming that most Google Classrooms tend to have. So having that feature there for personalisation of your Google Classrooms, I think, is a really nice way to add your own touch to your space. Again, tips and tricks. I've done this, and I was bad for it at the beginning until I realised that from a pupil's perspective, when I was working with some of the pupils within ASN, having Google Classrooms like ours, for example, when they see them all displayed on that page, to make sure that your names of your Google Classrooms are really clear. For example, we have a Nat 5 class, and at that point it just said Nat 5 2020, 2021. Now, us as teachers, we know that that is going to be music because that's our subject. However, if a pupil is looking at that Google Classroom page, how do they know that that's their music classroom? How do they know that that's different from something like French? So being able to specifically, and you might have to put the name of your subject into the headings, it will also make it really clear for you to know what class is which. And also when pupils are joining your classes, or at least trying to navigate through your Google Classrooms, they at least know where they're going, okay, and what to look for. Obviously, what else is quite nice, for example, is you can, and I'm just going to double check this before I eat my words, when I am doing my class information, obviously I can add different types of information into here. The only one that's required when setting up a Google Classroom is the class name. But what I can also do, for example, in here is I'm able to add some emojis if I want to, and I'm quite big on my emojis. So, for example, what's going to differentiate a third-year music technology class from a third-year performance class is going to be able to add different types of emojis and things into the title. I don't think that, I think this is too long for us to actually see, so what I'll do is I'll just cut down my title for my class just now and click save. And what you'll notice is those emojis should pop up, there you go, into the class banner at the top. And into the class name, and if I now go back to all my classes, it should appear, but it's obviously too long. I can put it onto the S1 page just so that you can see what it looks like. So if I put S1 music and put in a music note, click save. It didn't pop up, that's great. That's fabulous. I definitely did just put it in there. We'll try that again. S1 music. Save. It's definitely worked with the music tech. I don't know why it's not working for that one. But if you notice, it has worked for the music technology page and it's there. I find that might be quite a nice way to have or bridge that gap. You know, kids use emojis all the time. So adding that extra little bit of personalization into that might be a good way to use it. And you can use emojis in a couple of different ways that I'll talk about later. So in regard to that, obviously you've got, like I said before, you can reorder your classes. Make sure that your classes are named really specifically, not for our benefit, but for the pupils' benefit, so that they're able to see which class is where and be able to easily access it. Because I know that's sometimes an issue for some of the pupils being able to find their work and access. So I'm just going to show you a couple of demo class pages. And I'm just going to talk about, I'm going to go into each of the sections. So I'm going to talk about the stream first and then the classwork, etc. And then we're going to go through it that way. So just based on the stream just now, there's a couple of handy hints and tips which you probably already know, but I'm just going to go through anyway. And I'm not sure, I think sometimes we tend to overlook these features if you're just generally posting and you're not really thinking about anything else. So if I look at this top bar here, which is obviously where you would announce something to your class, you have a couple of different options and a couple of different settings in here. So number one, obviously, great, you can type your message. So for example, I think, no, that's just my music one. Hi everyone, today's lesson is on Scottish music. Please look at the classwork page in order to find your task. Sometimes what is really nice when you're posting to your students as well is, I don't know if you've ever encountered this, we've encountered it quite a few times, where they go, I don't know where that task is. I don't know what you're looking for. I can't find it. One hint that I would say is, what you can do, I'm just going to duplicate this page just now, is you can actually put a link into where that classwork task is. So for example, in classwork, I could have a topic, so it's instruments of the orchestra, for example, right here. So what I can do is see those 3 wee dots, I can copy the link and then paste it here. So obviously it's not Scottish music, but please look at the Classwork page in order to find your task. If you can't find it, there's your link, and that link will take you straight to the Google Classroom page and straight to the task that you want them to complete. What's also quite nice is I tend to post at the bottom and say, any questions, please comment below. That directs pupils where to get help. So whether that's on the assignment task or whether that's on this post on here, obviously you need to make sure that your settings, your sharing settings in your Google Classroom allow pupils to do that, to make sure that they're allowed to comment. So I usually say, any questions, please comment below. And then sometimes, well, previously back at the beginning, what I'd usually do is put in my email address and just say that's where to find it. So good to go, message is sorted. Added in an extra stage of popping in that link about where to access the materials for your on your Classwork tab. So we've now got a couple of extra options. Option number 1, who do you want this post to go to? So are you wanting it, for example, to go to a specific set of students? Or would you like it to go to multiple classrooms? That's a game changer. So at the very, very, very top of your Google Classroom post, you've got 2 options. Option number 1 on the left allows you to post to multiple classrooms. Now, you can't schedule it. You have to, if the post is going up now, it needs to go up now, so it can't be scheduled, okay, to multiple classes. So for example, if I wanted to go to my tutorial page, and I also wanted it, for example, to go to the level 1 page, for example, and then this one, it's going to go to 3 classes. So if you had, for example, in our College Glen, we sometimes have 3 first-year classes that come in at the one time. If you want the same material to go out to 3 separate Google Classroom pages, but it's the same material, it's the same message that you're looking for, instead of each individual teacher having to do that, what you could do is have one teacher post to all 3 classes at the same time. So that's using that for button up the top. Because you're posting to multiple classrooms, you are not allowed to select which students it goes to. It goes to everybody in those 3 classrooms. So if that's not something you're looking for, don't choose the all classes or the selecting classes. Just make sure that you choose which classroom you'd like it to go to. So if I take those 2 off for just now. So great, we've sorted that out. We're going to post into multiple classrooms, done and dusted. Your next stage along the line is, I'm now in this College Glen tutorial classroom. I want to post to certain individuals. So that might be, for example, to do with engagement. That might be to do with I'm giving back feedback or specific feedback to that person. It could be to a group of pupils that I want to facilitate to do group work. It might be an extension task for a certain selection of individuals. And using that button next to it, which says all students, what will happen is only one person in this classroom. Is all your students will then appear, and then you can select which students that you want them want materials to go to. I'll give you an example for it. Yeah, I will, because this doesn't break GDPR. So, Google Classroom page has 38 pupils in it, something like that. It's 2 columns, so it's a 4F and a 4E and a 4G column. And myself and Lauren, who teach in this classroom, we obviously have, I've got 17 students, Lauren's got 18 students, and then we've got a few floating about who are doing from a different column. And in that, you can see that that message there from today is only going to my selected 17 students, and that's what it will appear up in the top corner. And then you can also notice that down the bottom, Mrs. Lawkins is also, when it doesn't say anything next to it, it's meaning that it's going out to every single person, and that's what the communication we use that way for. So that's using that all students function feature there. Extra features, again, this is still staying in the stream and the comments that announce something to your class section. You can add a variety of links. For example, you can add things to Google Drive in here. You can add links to different websites. You can add files, PDFs, Word documents, PowerPoints, whatever you're needing, pictures, for example. And you can also add YouTube clips that go straight into your stream post. Quite handy and quite useful. For example, if I give you my third year class, when we were doing a listening assessment, I think I just passed one. Here you go. So their topic there was to listen to a variety of sound effects. That was the task. And then down the bottom, what I did was posted 4 websites in which they could utilise and click on. And those were the websites that I wanted them to look at for sound effects. I also, further down the line, there you go, covered S3, we covered vocal music. It wasn't a task, a homework task. It wasn't a task that I'm asking them to complete. But what I did was posted the information onto that stream for anybody, for example, who was self-isolating, and then posted the materials that I used in order to teach that lesson. And that way pupils knew that if they were off ill for whatever reason, that on the 26th of November, that's what we covered in class. And those are the resources and materials that I used. I also find it's really useful to use the stream to, for example, and I will utilise this once we go back to in-person, face-to-face teaching, is use the stream a lot more effectively for things like learning intentions and success criteria. I don't feel that this platform for learning and teaching is going to go away anytime soon. So we continually need to be utilising this. And I think using the stream as a way of communication, having that displayed on your board when pupils walk in and say, that's where your work is, that's where everything is going to be posted, and talking through that and having that on the board as the first thing they see and their learning intentions and success criteria there, and the resources that I was going to use for the lesson. That way, it's all in one place. Pupils know where to find it, you know where to find it, and that's where you're using everything from. That way, it shouldn't be an extra workload issue about having to go and upload things afterwards if you're using this as your main port of call for all lessons and delivery of teaching. So that's the add function, which is the same as what it would be in the Classwork tab. And then we have the last couple, which I'm assuming most teachers have probably used more frequently than they ever have before, when we found out that we could schedule posts. The delight when I've told teachers that they can schedule posts for classes is a game changer. Not going to lie, and I probably shouldn't be admitting this while I'm live on YouTube and it's going to stay on YouTube, but it's not the first time that I have, for example, scheduled a post, got up at 8:30 when I'm supposed to be online at 9:15, gone for a shower, but knowing that my post was automatically scheduled and that that information would be going out to my classes when it should be. So that is next to those options are the little drop down menu next to post. And in there you have the following options: post, schedule, or save draft. And again, you can do this in a couple of ways. So saving draft means that that will come up at the top as a saved announcement. And in there, for example, you can see that that's still a draft form. I can delete it if I want, but I can also click on it to edit it again if I need to. Again, I can also, for example, schedule or select different students. And again, that will come up as a draft. That's perfectly fine. And it will just stay there until I'm ready to do whatever I need to do with it, whether it's copy, paste, schedule, delete, whatever it needs to be. And then also the last one here, that you have a schedule post. Please be aware, and I think many teachers have fallen into this trap, it automatically schedules for the next day. So you'll need to make sure that it's definitely set for today's date. It's not the first time that we've accidentally scheduled something for, 3 o'clock and it's not gone up, and you're like, why has it not gone up? And you're like, oh wait, it's been scheduled for the next day. Or some teachers have posted for things to go on at like 1 o'clock in the morning, just because of those times. So it's just be careful when you are using the schedule post that you definitely have the correct time through there. So it'll be like 1300, for example, in order for it to be posted at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and not 01. That'll be posted at 1 o'clock in the morning. And you might get some frightened students who probably do try and get the work done at that point. But just to make sure that scheduled post, if I even post it for 2 o'clock today, that it now allows me to do so. And then when I click schedule, it'll pop to the top of my page and it'll tell you, for example, what the date is and what the time is. So that's your options in there for scheduling. Last section in that wee comment box is this one here. Now, I think most people tend to overlook this because we usually just straight in and click and then that option disappears. That option at the very end of Google Classroom is to reuse a post, which I think is brilliant. So imagine you had a class, third year music tech, for example, that you had last year, and you definitely know that there was a really good post that you put up about an assignment task or some feature, and you want to put it back into this classroom. So by clicking on that reuse icon, what it allows you to do is it allows you to search all your classes that you're part of. So at the moment, this is searching the S4 Music Technology page. But if I click the back arrow at the top left-hand corner, I can now search all the classes that I'm a part of, and it will also come up with all the teachers' names along the way. So for example, say there was a really good post, for example, in Mr. Harris's guitar group, and that he has great online resources. What I can then do is reuse that post. Everything that came with that post, so whether it's links, files, anything else, will all be included in there. And then I can just go ahead and post that, and all the information goes straight into my Google Classroom. Again, I'll give you another example. For example, that third year page that I was talking about when I was talking about the rock and roll, in fact, we covered vocal music. It will create new copies of all attachments if you want it to. It might be good for assignments that you're moving from class to class. But that one, it doesn't really matter because they're the same slides, docs, and whatever I'm looking for. And if you notice, every single one of them will pop down the bottom. I don't have to go searching for anything. They're automatically in that post. I can automatically reuse it. And I can also select to which students that I want it to go to, which I think is a brilliant feature. And then obviously I can just go ahead and post. I can add to that if I want to. I can take away from that if I want to. I can select students that I want to, and then I can do a whole lot of features and functions. And again, that setting, if I go back to edit, I should be able, once before I post it, I'd be able to announce, change which class and stuff I wanted to go to as well, especially if it's multiple. I think that's a fantastic feature, and I'm really pleased that they've started to add that in. Last thing on the stream is the move to top announcement. So for example, if I take, it will be. If I check the higher music technology page, you'll notice that Mrs. Lawkins has posted this afternoon about the work that they have to do. However, there's an important announcement that's kind of jumped down the stream a little bit because it was posted at 11:20 this morning. But that's really important. Pupils need to know that. So what I would do is use the 3 wee dots on the right-hand side and move that post to the top of the stream, and it will move to every single person, and that will now be right at the top of the stream for people to be able to see. So, for example, in a classroom where we have 200 first years, the assignment task goes up to the very, very, very top of the stream at all points, regardless of whether you post, and we use that move to top so that the instructions go right back to the top of the stream, and that's the first thing that students should see once they open up the Google Classroom, is the important information, and then anything else that follows down other than that. There's been many features that have been requested in Google Classroom. For example, changing text, changing formats, bullet points, move left, move right, bold, colours. And I'm not sure if those are coming yet, but I know that it's been a really requested feature. So what I would do is, if there is any Google Classroom things that you'd like requested, that you use the little question mark down in the bottom left-hand corner to request any features. I know that in regard to moving things to the top of the page, it would be a really great feature for us to have, be able to direct pupils to certain bits, make things bold, make things centre. That's a feature that I feel that's missing from Google Classroom, especially on posts and things that you're able to add and direct pupils' attentions to certain bits of information. Just in regard to posting as well, like I've said before, it might also be nice to add a couple of extra emojis and things to direct them to different tasks, just so that, it kind of breaks them up a little bit, so they're not just reading full paragraphs of text, etc. So potentially you could add more emojis and things along the way. So I'm going to leave the stream just now. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to do in the stream. So what I'm going to do is head to the settings just now and just go through a couple of the settings features that might help you. Again, you can add lots of class details. Not all of this will appear onto the class card. Just please make sure that your class names are really clear and specific. And again, you can add emojis to personalise that, and they should pop up. Not sure why the S1 didn't, but you've got the option to personalise that. Again, next section is talking about the general section. In here, for example, you can obviously have the link to your classroom to be sent out if needed, or using the class code. I always display the class code. I know that some teachers tend to turn that off. I know that some pupils accidentally, kind of delete themselves from the classroom or whatever, and if their friends are in there, I think it's easier for them just to give them the class code instead of having to email and jump through hoops to get back in and to get access again. At the moment, because of online learning, I've set this classroom to students can post and comment. I know that our previous S1 classroom had this setting and we weren't getting notifications when pupils were posting themselves. So what I tend to do is change this one to students can only comment, which means that any post that a teacher puts up, when they add a class comment underneath in here, I'll get a notification to say that someone's added a comment to the class, and then I'll be able to go back and check it and then see which posts and things they've turned it back on. So students can only comment, in my opinion, is better than post and comment, because sometimes you'll know when you first set up a Google Classroom, they'll have that conversation on the stream. I've seen some classes, they're like, hi, I'm sitting next to you, and it just gets cluttered. So allowing them to only comment will means that they can only comment on a post that you've created. Or completely lock it down and just say that it's only the teachers who can add anything to the classroom stream. At the moment, I wouldn't advise that, because if you're wanting pupils to ask for help, the best way for them to do so is to communicate on any posts or comments that you've put up. This section here, now this is entirely your choice. As you can see from the classroom, hold on, let me save those ones just now. If I go back to my classroom, you'll be able to see all of these, right, which is all of the assignments that I've posted up, and you can see the announcements that I've created. Sometimes you might feel that you don't need these, especially if you're going to use the copy link to send it to them in a message on the stream. Sometimes you might feel that all of these kind of clutter up the stream a little bit. So what you can do is you can get rid of those by scrolling down and going to Classwork on the stream and then hiding notifications. And what that'll do now is it will only show the announcements. So it will only show any of the information that I've posted and nothing else. All the classwork will stay in the Classwork tab. So it's your choice. You can have that set up whichever way you want to. And then obviously what you can have is even more information. So if I show details and attachments, what will happen is it will now show on the stream as, oh, posted world music task, and all the information and all the any attachments and stuff will appear on the stream. I don't tend to have this just because it gets a bit more cluttered and pupils tend to disengage when things like that are up when they can find it in the Classwork tab. So I tend to have it set to either hide notifications or show condensed notifications, either way. Meet links. I always make sure that my meet links are visible to students so that I can just direct them to, oh, there's a live lesson today, links in the banner, or again, you can copy this link. You can also reset this link as well if you've got any issues or just want to have that extra safeguarding about like a new link for every meet that you have. So that's really everything in the settings, which I think kind of declutters some of your stuff, and then that's your settings basically set up for your classroom. The last one that I'm going to talk about just now before going into the Classwork tab is the notifications. We're probably all sick to death at the moment of getting numerous notifications about different things. I can't find this, what do I do? This document isn't working, I don't have an instrument, I can't do this task, whatever it is along the way. I know that for teachers who are co-teachers in a lot of classes, you'll also be getting those notifications. So a nice feature, which is in the very left hand side, is the 3 lines, or people call them the cheeseburger sometimes. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom and go into the settings in here, this is the settings for every single one of your Google Classroom pages. And what you can do in here is you can obviously tell Google what sort of notifications you're looking for. So for example, do you want comments on your posts? Yes, because if pupils are asking questions, that's the one you're looking for. Comments that mention you, so if anything with your email address or your name or anything involved in that. Any private comments on your work is something else you might want to consider. Again, do you want late submissions? So if somebody submits something that's 260 days late, do you want a notification when that pops through? Maybe. Do you want to know when a pupil resubmits their work? Do you want to get a notification when someone invites you to teach a classroom? You can change all of these settings in here. But the one thing that I do want to show you is this big, massive class notifications. And that means that I can toggle on and off one of those classes that I'm either involved in or not involved in or don't want a notification for. And you can go through all of these and toggle on and toggle off. So if I didn't want, for example, maths, I can toggle it off or I can toggle it on. And then I'll get notifications or I won't get notifications about a variety of different things in each of those classrooms. That might save your email inbox a little bit of work because I know that they are working very hard at the moment and I'm constantly deleting things, for example, that are not my pupils in first year. But I can't say only give me notifications for certain pupils. I have to get all notifications for first years and then I just have to delete the ones that don't concern me. So that's your settings. Last couple of points for you is the Classwork tab. So in the Classwork tab, can I highly recommend the use of topics to you? In the use of topics, what that will do is it will split up your Classwork page into a variety of different subheadings, which you can modify and you can add to and you can change. I found out through a lot of feedback from parents and pupils that being able to see where their work is really clearly, really easily, sending them to a section that's clearly labelled and clearly named helps them find out their work and helps them structure what tasks and things they have to do. I'm currently looking at rolling out a set method for pupils, which we will try and embed into some of the departments across the school and hopefully then into all, especially for pupils, for example, with additional support needs, who will then have a clear method of engagement about how to find different tasks and what tasks they need to do when. I've gone for the simple date side of things on these tasks here. And I've got a massive heading at the moment that says January, February 2021. So they know that their work will be in that post, and then they just search for the date. I've also seen, I was going to find this before I started the chat, but I did see something on, I think it was Twitter a wee while ago, which was talking about having a colour-coded system or a series of emojis, for example, that directed pupils into a variety of different tasks. Each symbol therefore had a different kind of task, whether it was an online task or an away from the computer task or something like that. I can't seem to find it at the moment, but I'll have a look for it at the end. And what I'll also do is I'll tweet it out once this session's over, so that you can at least have a look at it and think, is that something that I want to employ in my classroom, or do I want to do something different? But what you could easily do to each of these headings, for example, is, again, if I rename this, is to add some sort of emoji. So, for example, that could be a sun. I know that if there's any primary colleagues joining me, they might have, I know that Ailey Mackay had a primary classroom, and she would say that go and look for the post with the blue balloon or the red balloon, and then they would have to go and find that task, and it would be, for example, your reading task, and then that would be something that they would then go and look at. Or if you had, for example, a selection of tasks that they could complete at their own leisure, you might say you must choose one. So if I rename this, for example, so if I rename this at the start with like a red dot or something, or put that in order, that emoji did not work. So if I put something in here, you need to make sure that the emoji works. There's a balloon, right? There's a red balloon. So if I said the task with the red balloon is the task that you had to complete, and my balloon's not working again. I'll work on that. But you can find emojis that do work and have direct pupils to, for example, the task with the red balloon is the one that you must complete, and then you must choose one of the ones with the green square. And then you could allocate your tasks that way. It also breaks up all this information that you're asking pupils to read through. If you say, look at the yellow sun topic and choose one of these, then at least they know where they've to go and what they've to do, and then you're directing them using those emojis, etc., and using the topics. To create topics, it's just create and then down to topic, and then you can create those subheadings that are there. Or if you're creating an assignment, for example, you've got the topic option on the right hand side, and you can create a new topic, or you can select one that's already been made, or you can create a new topic in here. So you've got that one as well. Couple of last minute things which I've already talked about, really. Again, in an assignment, for example, if I just do world music, in here you have the really similar functions to what happens on the stream. You're able to put, obviously, your instructions in here. Same button to add Google Doc, link, file, or a YouTube clip. You've also got the option in here to create a Google Doc, slide sheets, drawings, or forms. You don't have to go back to Google Drive in which to do it. You can create it in this window. Again, you have the same option to post to multiple classes, post to multiple students or groups of students or singular students. And again, you've got the same options to schedule and save draft. So all of those are in there. And again, you've got obviously the options to change how many points and stuff. Is it unmarked? Is it marked? Is it out of 2? Is it out of 4? Is it out of 6? Whatever it's out of. Your due date, your topic, and then if you want more information about rubrics, I would check out Carla's session, which I think is or happened at 1:30, but you can check that back up on demand or on rewatch. Really recommend looking at things to do with rubrics. I've created a couple of rubrics to do with the music technology course, which once you've created it, you can just reuse over and over again. And if I assign this task, I'll show you what the rubric looks like. The rubric's there. If I do assignment, the rubric then has, for example, is it 10 points, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, and then each of the topics in there, which I would really recommend that you start or look at as an extra stage, as an advanced stage to your features and functions of Google Classroom, because I think the rubrics are really going to take off once you have an understanding of them. I think it's going to benefit for marking especially, and you can even use that as an assignment, for example, to check under people and then say this pupil is a level 3 or a level 2 or is working towards National 4 and is going to get a C or whatever grade, and working it out that way. I think really that's everything. I would like to tag on one thing, and I did talk about this in my tracking and monitoring session. I know that tracking and monitoring seems like a big burden and a big hurdle just now, especially when we're having, lots of pupils to mark. I don't think I've ever marked so much in my life. I'm one of those teachers who doesn't tend to hand out homework because of that extra addition of having to mark things afterwards. What I have noticed though is within, obviously, if you look at the Classwork tab, that's quite overwhelming to say, oh look, there's 6 starters. Did Frank complete 1? Did he complete 1, 2, 3, and 4? Did he complete 6? And sometimes, you're going in and you're checking and you're having to go back out again. What I've tended to find is that if you use the People tab and then select the pupil, you'll be able to see a really, really big overview of, what tasks have been completed, what marks were given back, what work is still to be completed. And I've used that way to track and monitor pupils compared to the Marks tab, which has everything and everyone in it. But what you can do in here is you can click on any assignment, go to the top right hand corner, click on the settings cog, and then you can copy all the sheets, all the marks to a Google Sheet. And then what you can do is extract the data that way. I just think that finding alternative ways and means that won't be such a burden for us, especially when you've got, I've got 5 first-year classes, 5 second-year classes, so that's 200 pupils. They're currently on their 5th task. So that's 500 tasks that I have to monitor, and those pupils are handing those in at random times. But however, if I was to only monitor 100 pupils and then monitor within those 100 pupils their 5 tasks, that to me would seem easier than monitoring all 500 different types of things. So I've used the People tab in order to just click and select my pupils and just really easily see which tasks have they completed, which tasks haven't they completed, and then I'm able to click in, for example, starter 4. I can see that I've not completed starter 3. If I click on starter 3, it takes me straight to that assignment, and that's when I can go straight in and mark, go back, and then mark that way if there's specific pupils that need to be completed. There doesn't seem to be any comments, so I'm hoping that I've managed to cover a lot of the functions and features of Google Classroom. I know that the majority of things tend to be just trial and error. I'm hoping that some of the things that I've covered today in regard to posting and sharing to different or multiple classrooms, using topics in the Classwork tab, even the more personalisation of using emojis onto different tasks, and even the kind of banner at the top to make your classroom just a bit more personal. We would do this on a daily basis if we were physically in the classroom anyway. And to me, your digital classroom platform shouldn't be that much different than what you would normally have if you were face-to-face with pupils. It's just trying to break down that barrier. And I know that there'll be barriers to learning via different devices, timings, sharings. I know that we're trying to tackle that in regard to the Scottish Government and money and councils, local authorities giving out devices along the way. It's just finding the best way that your Google Classroom will suit the needs of you and the needs of your pupils. And hopefully some of those tips and things that I've given you today will allow you to kind of personalise that and be able to communicate with your pupils a little bit better, whilst also doing all the other stuff that we seem to do in the background, like tracking, monitoring, engagement, communication, assignments, tasks, all those other things that go along with. Obviously, that's Google Classroom tips and tricks. I haven't talked about things like editing and suggesting mode, comments banks, private comments, any of that sort of thing. If you do want to catch up on any of that, it was in a previous session that I covered this afternoon, I think at 10 o'clock, 10:30, something like that. So I do talk about, comment banks and things like that. And there's other tips and tricks that people, like Carla is talking about, Moat today, and how Moat will be able to give verbal feedback instead of having to type out comments and things along the way. And there's just a whole load of tips and tricks out of in all of the sessions that were hosted today. And I would advise you to go and have a look at the LDL site. I don't know if it's here. I thought there was a banner for it. I don't think there is. But if you go back to the LDL site, which I'll post in the chat for you just now, if you go back to the homepage, what you'll be able to do is look at all today's sessions, go back and catch up any of those on demand at any point. And if you wouldn't mind being able to give us a wee tweet back if you're on Twitter using the hashtag LDL2021 and tagging me or any of the other presenters into any of your posts, just so we can get that little bit of publicity out there. Anyway, thank you very much for listening to me this afternoon, and I hope you managed to take it even one hint, tip or trick, or that you'll be able to share, or even if you're on Google Classroom yourself and have something that I've maybe missed, please send it out there, because the more sharing that we do, the more collaboration, the easier this work will become for everybody. Anyway, thank you very much for this afternoon, and I hope that some of you can even make it to the 2:30 session for the question and answer with the panel. If not, please watch some of the other stuff that's been posted today, whether it's sharing with your colleagues, rewatching at a later date, or even those who've joined me for the live session today. Thank you very much. Speak to some of you later. See you later.